Better Man 2024. This is a biopic about Robbie Williams, who was famous through the 1990s onwards. He's been a member of Take That a couple of times. 90s music, it was a pretty strong formative time in my life, and so I look back fondly on that era. The film is a biopic and a musical. It stars Robbie looking like a monkey throughout the film. In a similar way, it's like a device in the same way as Lego was used for Pharrell Williams. It has a similar effect of allowing the protagonist of the film to lay open his heart, to share all about his life from the start. This isn't a documentary as such. It's more of a narrative, hence a biopic. It's sort of somewhere in between films like Bohemian Rhapsody and the film about Elton John from a couple of years ago. I like those films, but I think this innovative design of using a monkey in this case has allowed Robbie to star in a way. His own voice appears throughout, and there's someone else starring as Robbie as well. So it starts off when he was a very young kid, I guess the late 70s, because I looked him up. He was born in 1974, and so much of his growing up was in the 80s, and he started really young in Take That at age 16, I guess, 1990. I didn't realise in this film he mimics his dad. His dad performs in front of the telly with his heroes, Rat Pack, people like Dean Martin, My Way. Peter was a small star performing in front of small clubs, and in some ways this inspired Robbie. Robbie always wanted to be a star. It seems one of his greatest fears was to be a nobody. He struggled in school. He was not popular, and this is where the use of the monkey helps create that visual separation from everyone else. He felt that he was other, that he was different from everyone else. That comes across really strongly because throughout the film, a lot of people look at him with disdain, like the other members of Take That. It's like, oh, that's Robbie. Oh, and Robbie was a stage name given by Take That's manager, and it wasn't something he was keen on. He was reluctant about it, although he said that he liked the fact that it was a persona he could hide behind. But while he was growing up, he was Robert. His grandmother was really supportive. It's a really sweet story from the start. So whilst his father even gets angry when he accidentally knocks over the television aerial and disrupts the channels. His father's shouting at him, but his gran, a supportive character all the way through. Really lovely. I very much enjoyed it, even though in some ways I found the sort of got quite a lot of aggression, that masculine energy that Mark Zuckerberg's been talking about recently. Gee, what's wrong with feminine energy? There's this sort of male ego. Everyone has an ego. Women have egos as well. We all have a quest. We want to leave a legacy. We want to be remembered. We all want to feel worthwhile and feel that we've got some value that we're providing to the world. And it's very easy if you're the type of character like Robbie Williams, where it's fairly fragile when he gets othered, when the other people like Take That or like his school classmates gang up against him. I really felt for him. I know what it's like to be othered. That happened a lot in my school. So there was quite a bit about it that I gelled and I felt sympathy. But the way he gets so upset, so angry, the way he cheats on certain people, he's kind of really boisterous in some ways, and there's things like all of the songs. I love a lot of the songs by Robbie Williams and by Take That, but my favourite song of all is Feel. And whilst I gather that Angel is the song that the largest proportion of Brits would like to be buried to, the song they want playing at their funeral, I think Feel is the song that I'd want at my funeral. Putting it out there on YouTube. Just talking about that song, it appears in this film 2 or 3 times. I mean, it was actually in the end credits as well. It's near the end and it's near the start. And at least twice I felt I'm crying. I was actually in tears. It's a song that, just thinking about it gets me really emotional. And there's a lot about that. It was released towards the end of 2002, December 2002. And in December 2002, I was in a significant crisis at my work. I was being bullied. I felt bullied a lot. It was a really tough time. But also 2002 was the year that my sister's mental health difficulties manifest in a huge way. And I'll give a trigger warning now. She first made attempts on her life around the time our gran died. And so that song, the lyrics and the song itself are really evocative. Not sure I understand the role I've been given. Probably put a few of the lyrics up on the screen, the lyrics that really hit me in the feels in such a big way. Yeah, every time I hear that song, it sort of mainlines my tear ducts. It really does. Feelings are so important to all of us. And so this particular song, I don't know what my sister thought of Robbie Williams or take that, but it's like one of those things that certainly I found mapping over some of the aspects of her mental health difficulties as I understood them. Trigger warning. She started self-harming by cutting her arms, and in this film there's a few scenes, there's a focus, I don't particularly like this about films, but the focus on razor blades. Robbie did a lot of drugs and he used one of those old style non-safety razor blades. And razor blades, in 2003 I watched Rule of Attraction, and I've reviewed that film almost 2 years ago, and there's a scene in that film involving razor blades, and it's fatal and it's drastic. I love that film, but it's the most difficult scene to watch, and it still is. Really heavy. Now there's a focus on razor blade at some point in this film. There's some references to suicide a few times throughout this film. Luckily they don't go that far in it, and also it's almost like the lowest point where he starts to get help. He starts to reconnect with people. He goes to not necessarily Alcoholics Anonymous, but a support group where everyone's in a circle, and he talks about how low he is, and the mentor, the coach, the coordinator of the group says one of the ways of self-healing is to focus on connecting with all the people closest to you in the relationships. Such good advice. So when that happens, that's really powerful. So much up and down in this film. So brilliant in many ways. And yet there's also some real difficulty as well in this film, as in to show the dependency on drugs and everything. There's frenetic, fast cut sequences, a lot of them. And there's a certain point, a bit like when I see a lot of special effects, my eyes can glaze over. I can suddenly feel like that's the way I protect myself, just zone out. And then I'm losing track of the film. I don't think I did lose track of the whole narrative in this film, but it becomes a bit too overwhelming. I think some other people will find that with this film. Other people will love it, but it can be too much. I think it's really clever. There's so much that is clever about this film. I know I'm going to score it 9 out of 10. I was thinking of 8.75, but I'm going to score it 9 out of 10 because it is a brilliant tribute to Robbie. I learned a lot about his life. It gave me added sense of sympathy towards Robbie, because sometimes you think, oh gosh, these pop stars, they are so trouble. But I don't know. There is a bit too much. It's a very long film. You have to put a lot of energy into concentrating on it. It's got some brilliant actors in it as well. Rachel Bano, Kate Mulvaney, Steve Pemberton, and Alison Steadman, and there's Robbie Williams himself. Alison Steadman played his grandmother. That was beautiful. The connection with his mum and dad were touching too. He had on-off relationship with his father in many respects for many years. It was played so poignantly and beautifully. The huge concerts that he held in 2003, like 125,000, and just seeing seas of people. I remember the first open air concert I went to, which was Donington, and seeing Motley Crue, heavy metal band that were big in the 80s. And that really hit me. I thought, wow, if you've listened to a band on record and then suddenly you see them playing live on stage as part of a huge audience, and that was the first time that happened to me. I was in the audience. To be the other way around, to be the person doing the performance in front of all these people. It's a 20th century, 21st century phenomenon that we can have these experiences. It wouldn't have happened in previous centuries. We've got the numbers, we've got everything now. We've got so many ways of communicating with other people. I suppose humanity, we've been very inventive and creative and all this technology, but our minds perhaps can't always cope with the reality of all that. That's my take on why so many pop stars. I was reading about Janis Joplin earlier this week, one of Safi 76's Queer Women of the Day, and she died at 27. She was one of the 27 Club, same as Amy Winehouse more recently, and sadly so many others. And so all this fairly unnatural element to our lives these days is something our relatively primitive minds may have difficulty in coping with. Some people are seemingly well adjusted to it all, but others go down the route of drugs. And people go down the route of drugs to deal with traumatic events of another nature. Life is difficult. I think it's a great film. I think that's all I'll say for now. Let me know your thoughts on this review and on the film itself. If you like this film, please like. Thanks if you subscribe, hit the notification, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks. Bye for now. Feel 2024. No. Feel. No.